Hi guys, welcome back to the Pageant Project. Hope you had a great weekend and you're having a great week. It's late Tuesday here. Don't know what time it is for you when you're listening to this or watching this. I wanted to talk to you more about Pageant Interview today. Most of you will know, I think, that I was doing a lot of mock interviews originally with the Miss USA and Miss Teen USA contestants a couple of weeks ago now, and I had put it in a nutshell. I had a really good reception to that, really good feedback from that, and so I thought, okay, let me look at offering pageant interview sessions and mock interview sessions more on a more ongoing basis rather than just as a one-off. And so I reached out to a few people, close friends lists, VIPs, and said, hey, would anyone be interested in doing a mock interview session, a free one, in exchange for helping me work out exactly what I want to deliver in this space? I think I mentioned this last week. And so I've been continuing with that, and it's been interesting. It has been long. If you're watching this, you'll be able to see behind me on my whiteboard, which actually I will say I think everyone who has ADHD like me loves whiteboards for some reason. I really don't know why, but that scribbling behind me, some of that you can see is the work that I've been putting into working out how I can help you guys nail pageant interview in 2026. And I think it makes a certain amount of sense that I should be moving into the pageant interview space, primarily because I am the pageant interview guy. Maybe not in terms of doing strictly pageant interviews. My cat just decided to run out of the room for absolutely no reason. um, what was I saying? But not because I've been strictly doing pageant interviews as such in terms of like the 2 minute or 5 minute version, but the hundreds of pageant interviews I've been doing over the last 10 years will be closing in on 400. I think I'm up to like 350 or thereabouts on the pageant project itself. Then I've done probably another 50 under another brand name years back, 100 podcast episodes, and all of that has been having to use my voice, use communication, learn how to convey that in a way, obviously very often through a webcam, but learn to convey other people's stories, help other people tell their stories in a way that's authentic and, even more important than that, I think interesting. I don't know if I want to say entertaining, because sometimes it's not about being entertaining, but trying to present things in a way that is authentic and at the very least not boring. Because if it's authentic and yet it's boring, unfortunately, in this day and age, no one's going to listen. And that's one of the things that's sort of been a frustration for me going on this week. If you read, if you got the email, if you read the copy below this episode really was, and what I'm going to get you to do was born out of frustration, honestly, because there's so much information, I think, that you should know as a pageant contestant that would absolutely help you to stand head and shoulders above everyone else in pageant interview. And it's not because I'm so smart and I've come up with it. It's actually pretty well known information in the interview space, in the communication space. And for some reason, it just doesn't seem to be getting taught by other pageant interview coaches. Now, I'm sure there are some who do know this information, but what seems to be going on is that certain interview systems have certain recommended coaches, and there seems to be this stigma or belief that unless you coach with these official coaches, that you're somehow going to be marked down, or that these official coaches somehow know something that no one else does. And I'm here to tell you, after all the experience that I've had interviewing hundreds of people, it's not true. It's a load of BS. If someone's an official coach, by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. I'm not saying that. But I've always told you guys, you want to pick the best coach for you. I've given you 3 ways to pick a great coach. One is I need to know their stuff. 2 is I need to know how to teach. And 3 is you need to have a good rapport with them. That's my checklist. But I've also said that my experience as a coach, going on decades now, whether it be as a tennis coach, a life coach, or a pageant coach, my belief has always been I need to put you as my client first. That meaning, if I don't think I'm the best coach for you, I should pass you on to someone who I do think is the best coach for you. And to give you a very basic example, all of you know that communication is largely the non-verbals. At the very least, it's an equal split between verbal and non-verbal. And in case you haven't heard this, this is to say it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. And traditionally, we break it up into what you say, content, then the how you say it, which is the tonalities, the timbre of your voice, the rapidity of your voice, the tempo. And then the big component is body language. And depending on who you believe, that alone could be, more than 50%. And so I'm sure you've heard that from pageant coaches. But then my question to you is, well, what do they say to you? Or how do they help you leverage that information? It's one thing to have that information, and I'm not sure all pageant coaches do. But even if you know that, how do you apply that? Because where I get confused is, okay, the coach has told you it's not just about what you say, it's how you say it. And then all the training they give you is on what to say. And by the way, no, I don't think telling you to go into an interview room and smile counts. Okay. Because what other option are you going to do? You're going to walk into the interview room grumpy. I mean, it might help you stand out, for all I know. But it's just there's basic information out there that could help you so much that I feel for some reason the coaches aren't getting through to you, or that it's gate kept, and or it's paywalled. And it's this idea that, oh, unless you pay me, I'm not going to tell you. And the other infuriating idea, and I've had this not just from pageant coaches, but tennis coaches, is that, oh, if I put it out there for free, like on my social media, then everyone will know my secret. And I feel we need a reality check with these people. It's like, I'm sorry, nothing you've come up with is brand new, because if it really was, you could put a trademark on it. Everything in coaching, pretty much under the sun, has been learned from someone else, and you are simply passing on that information. Don't get me wrong, every now and then someone truly innovates, but that takes like a genius level of intellect. Everyone else, including myself, what we do, we learn from other people. And if we're good at what we do, we synthesize from other areas. This is one reason why I feel I stand out, and often I feel like I can get through to people. It's not because I'm so smart, it's because I have disparate or a wide ranging experience from, not just pageant coaching, but life coaching, and then being in business, and then tennis coaching, and then working a lot with kids, and then working a lot specifically with young women because I was a head tennis coach at an all girls school, on and on and on. My violin knowledge, I learned violin, classical violin from the age of 2.5. That's come in handy during some interviews. I'm fascinated by psychology. I love coffee. I love cats. All these things sort of come together, and you synthesize bits and pieces, especially when you have a slightly crazy brain like myself, and it helps you make you the coach that you are. And so I was just getting to the point where I was frustrated because I would get on these mock interview sessions one-on-one, which is very time intensive. And if you haven't been on a session with me, you need to know that I put a lot of energy into it. It's not just, oh, yeah, that sounds pretty good, and time, I'll see you next week. My aim when I get into a session with you is to work out that one little correction, or that one sort of distinction, that if we unlock that, everything else becomes so much easier. It's like that whole thing of, oh, I take one step forwards but 2 steps back, making sure that doesn't happen. And so very often it doesn't have anything to do with what you're saying. I've worked with people on imposter syndrome, on nerves, on going way back. There was an issue that I had with a former Miss Universe title holder. She didn't want to show her femininity because she had been taken advantage of in her past. And so she was very sort of boarded up, robotic, and masculine. And there wasn't that softness or that relatability to her because she didn't want to use her femininity because she thought it was weak. that knowledge, by the way, comes from my relationship coaching. Yes, I have done relationship coaching. And so I would need to go through, and it was very interesting, but it was also excruciatingly painful because I could keep feeling that I have to give up the same information again and again and again. And I want all of you to have this information. I don't want to gatekeep it. I don't want to put it behind a paywall. That's not to say I won't do paid coaching, but I kind of want to make it difficult to get to me for private coaching, only because it's not scalable. It takes up a lot of time, a lot of my energy, as I said, but also, frankly, let me give you all the base information that I know that has helped all these clients. And after that, if you go through that and still go, I still need help, then absolutely, then we can have a conversation. But you won't need to come to a session with me and me sort of have to go through the base level of information. Does that make sense? And when I say base level of information, I mean it's like the entry level information, but that's not to say that it's not potentially life changing. And again, that's specifically because a lot of this information simply isn't discussed in pageant land. And even that base level of information, I am convinced it could make you in the top 20%, top 10, probably the top 5% of pageant interview just by knowing these little things. So they're little, but they're not little. We call it profound information. It's information that's really simple, but if you apply it, it is massively effective. Even simple things. I was wondering, like, where would I start in terms of what's the one thing that I want you guys to know about pageant interview and what's one thing that can set you apart? And honestly, the thing that scared me the most, and I was just talking about this with someone this morning because I was asking her about the difference in interview between Volunteer America, Miss America, and Miss USA. And by the way, they are hugely different. Another piece of information that just should be widely available, but it's not. And I said to her, the scariest thing to me has been about 80% of the clients that I've worked with in the past 2 weeks. And Miss USA and Miss Teen USA is like the biggest of the biggest pageants, right? This is not people going into a local county fair pageant and they've never done an interview before. 80% of these clients at the highest levels have never, not recently, have never seen or heard themselves give a pageant interview answer. Never. One of them I asked when's the last time. She said, 2 years ago. And I was like, but yeah, I think she was like 19 now. It's like, so there's a lot of change, my point, between like 18, 19, and then 15 or 16. And hopefully you've done a lot of growing and a lot of changing. But I said, that to me is crazy. The fact that you don't know what you sound like and what you look like and how you sound. It's like driving down a highway or a freeway at 60 miles an hour, blindfolded, and you're relying on someone else to tell you where to go so that you don't crash. It's not going to work really well. And so, out of all this frustration, I was like, you know what? All this information that I feel that I want to impart onto you that I think would be hugely useful. I don't want to gatekeep it. I don't want to paywall it. I'm going to put together a free training, a training that will show you all of this stuff. And I honestly think it's going to be better than what most other coaches are charging you for. Because my experience has been all they're telling you is what to say. And they give you this formula, which makes you all sound the same. And they don't tell you anything about body language or communication skills or rapport building or the psychology behind how to embody confidence rather than nerves. All of that stuff, right? And so I want to put out this training, make it available for free. Want to make it better than what most coaches are charging you for. And I just want to double check. And the reason it's going to be a training, by the way, is because I asked in a poll how you like to consume information. And overwhelmingly, the majority of you seem to want to consume it in video, which also is, by the way, how I like to consume my information. Books was sort of a distant second, and it was kind of the equal with audio or podcast. And so that's why I want to do it in training form. I also think that would be very easy to get it to you very quickly. But I want you, if this all makes sense, I want you to go to pageantmock.com. Pageant mock, as in mock interview, pageantmock.com. You'll see that it takes you to a Google form. The Google form will take you 2 minutes to fill out. It's very simple questions on what have been your biggest frustrations in pageant interview. What have been your biggest obstacles? What systems are you looking to compete in? Have you done coaching before? All those really basic level questions. It will ask you for your email address, by the way, and that's only so that when the training goes live, I can let you know if you want to access it. It's not like a traditional email list. You're not going to hear from me every week if you put your email in there. It's specifically just to say, okay, if you want, and you don't have to agree to this, but if you want to know when the training goes live, that email address is where I'll let you know. But pageantmock.com, it'll take you 2 minutes to fill out. And this is going to really help me determine what is it that will really help you the most. I don't want you to just be paying hundreds of dollars to the same coaches, getting the same formula, all coming out, all sounding robotic, rehearsed. You all sound that it was really scary. As I wrote in the copy below this video, it was actually really scary how similar all of you sound when I ask you an interview question. It's all you can see that formula of answering with oh well, as a pageant girl or as someone who's worked in the industry. And it's like, and I've said some of this information before, but it was never to be as a formula. It was to be used as a tool, which by the way means that sometimes you don't use it because you have other tools in your tool set. You don't just, it's not, it's what do they say? To the man who has a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I don't want to just give you one tool and then you go beating yourself in the head with this one tool in your pageant interview. The whole point is to have multiple tools or multiple skills in your skill set. And so you can pick and choose which one works best in the given interview situation that you find yourself in. Are we talking a panel interview? Are we talking a round robin interview? Is the person in front of you, are they an entrepreneur? Are they a beauty owner? Are they another pageant girl? How old are they? And all these other skills. It's not just to say every answer you go, well, as a pageant girl or as a nonprofit owner, here's what I believe. And it's like, oh, when you can tell that someone is giving you a really inauthentic answer and it's just been rehearsed? It's when you ask them a question and they don't have to give any thought to it. If I ask you, for example, what what are the three qualities? What three qualities? How would you define yourself in 3 words? If you don't have to give any thought to that, it's very clear to me that you've rehearsed this answer. Now, that's not to say that's a bad thing, but you have to not just go, "Oh my god, picked that, I've practiced that question before. Here's my answer." You need to actually, and then what people go, "Oh, well, then they told me I sound rehearsed." Yes, and here's the trick: I want you to rehearse, but I don't want you to sound rehearsed. And so that's another piece of information that no one seems to be talking about. Some people will tell you need to sound authentic, in which case, so what you're telling me is you don't want me to practice. And then other people say, oh, you need to practice. But then people get told, oh, you sound like you practice too much, or you sound rehearsed, or you sound like you're just telling us what we want to know. And I say, well, that's because there's a third alternative. It's not to just go in and not practice. It's not to just remember an answer, but it's to learn your answers, learn the sound bites to the point where you can actually riff with them. I've said this before, like a good actor or actress who remembers his or her lines, but then they're able to deliver them each time with a different emphasis, a different emotion. And don't get it wrong. When you're going to an interview room, it's not about what you say, it's about the impression that you make. We're talking about human connection, human emotion. This is another thing that other pageant interview coaches seem to miss. You are never simply going to impress someone with what you say. And by the way, even if you did, it can backfire spectacularly because you think it sounds impressive, and yet half the panel is going to think you're sounding full of yourself or you sound unrelatable. You sound like you're showing off. And so there are all these little bits and pieces. Again, that's not hugely new information in the communication sphere or the psychology sphere, but those are both areas that I have studied, particularly psychology. I'm fascinated by what makes us work. And so I really want to get that information across to you because it is going to make you not just a better interview, but a better communicator. And Okay, you may not be doing interviews for the rest of your life in whatever career path you decide to choose, but everyone needs to learn how to communicate. Because I think there's a very good argument to be made that a lot of the problems in our society right now are down to a lack of communication, right? When you call the other side stupid or ignorant or uneducated, rather than trying to use language that unites rather than divides, it is a very real cause of a lot of our problems. And so, again, pageantmock.com. Please take 2 minutes out of your busy schedule to go there. Just tell me what your obstacles are with Pageant Interview, your biggest frustrations, so that I can help create the best course possible going into 2026. And I really want to shake up the whole sort of tired industry in terms of, well, I'm going into this system and they've got their official coaches. So guess I'm going to have to sign up with them, because if I don't sign up with them, then they're going to want to know why. And then I'll probably get marked down because his sister is on the judging panel. And, he turns up here and she turns up there and he's always behind the scenes. And like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done accepting that this is the way that it needs to be. And I think, again, Miss USA, Miss Teen USA really gave me the impetus and the motivation to do this, because it's like, okay, if we can trust that that is going to be a real rebrand and hopefully bring some integrity back to the biggest pageant in our industry, maybe there's a chance to be optimistic here. And so I'm trying to move whilst I feel that optimism. And I really feel like I want to shake up this industry. And the best way of me doing it is by putting out this training, making it for free, but making it deep, making it interesting, because it's not just pageant interview. That's what's going to make a difference. It's about what to say, it's about how to say, it's about all those other things that I've been talking about and a whole lot more. And I'm going to give that away for free. And I'm convinced that it's going to be better than what 90% of coaches are charging you hundreds of dollars per hour for. That's my commitment to you. That's what I want to do at the close of this year, 2025, moving into 2026, is help you be the best interview you can be in 2026, but more specifically, you want to win that pageant. So you're probably going to have to win interview. So let's get to work. So please go to pageantmock.com. As I said, it'll take 2 minutes. It's mostly multiple choice. It'll probably take you less than two. Maximum, I can imagine, it'll take you 3. I mean, look, it's not going to take you a long time. Let's put it that way. So pageantmock.com. By the way, let me know if it doesn't work for you. I've checked. I think it's working. I just set it up now. Pageantmock.com. Take 2 minutes out of your schedule. You put your email address in there. That's, again, just so it's not an email. It's just so that if you want to know when the training goes live, then you'll be the first to know. I'll email you. I might also get you involved in like early access so that you can help tell me, okay, this was good, that wasn't so good. I need you to include this. And there's a lot that I want to put into this. It's going to be very accessible, it's going to be very practical, but there's a lot of stuff in there that can really help set you apart. I'll give you an example before I close for today. People, especially the Miss USA, Miss Teen USA contestants, they all wanted me to drill them with the really difficult questions, the ones they were afraid were going to trip them up. And so I can do that, but it's like, okay, well, for every one, do I need to come up with a separate list of questions? And I went, well, what's really happening here? The questions that are actually tricky are the ones that are controversial, right? Or the ones that really need you to think. And you don't want to have to be thinking about your answer for the first time in an interview or on stage Q&A, where there's probably even more pressure because every eye is on you and you're doing it in public rather than a private interview. So I thought, what's the best way that I can help people prepare for that? And I clicked onto, it's about self-awareness. There are certain topics that you need to have formulated your opinion on. And so I came up with a list of questions which will help you build your self-awareness. And it's really simple. Think of it as a worksheet. Topic, one column is topic, and the other column is what's your opinion on this topic. So topics such as gun control, education, environment, immigration, women's reproductive rights, all those things. And you may have formulated opinion on some of them, but it's just a list of topics that could potentially trip you up because they're either controversial or they're nuanced or both. And most controversial topics tend to be more nuanced than people like to let on. So even just something simple like that, I want a worksheet that will help you build your self-awareness so that when you go into pageant interview, nothing will trip you up. Nothing. And so things like that, right? And how to practice so that it actually maps to pageant success. Please don't practice in your head. I don't combine that with what I said. Like 80% of you have never heard or seen what you look or sound like when you're answering a pageant interview question, and then you combine that with I practice in my head, and I just want to tear my hair out because I'm like, oh please, you're spending time doing this, and it's a waste of time. You don't do pageant interview by picking up a piece of paper with a list of questions, going, I want to answer that question, and then answering it in your head. And then people wonder, oh, I practice in my head, but I can't work out why I bombed an interview. You wouldn't practice for the sports match of your life, whether it's a tennis match, a gymnastics routine, a cheerleading routine, or the NFL, the Super Bowl. You don't practice it just in your head. That can help, but you actually need to do it like the real thing, don't you? And so all these little bits and pieces, I just want to put them in one training. Obviously, there's going to be more than one module by the sounds of it. But, it could be mindset training. It could be how to practice. It could be the self-awareness module. And maybe it's like beginner, intermediate, advanced. I don't know. Okay. I haven't figured that out. But again, that's why I need your help. pageantmock.com. 2 minutes. Please fill that out. Let me know what your frustrations are, your biggest obstacles towards winning your next pageant, right? In 2026, if you're competing, you want to win. And winning the interview is going to be a key component of that, because if you bomb an interview, even if it's, let's say, only in inverted commas worth 25%, the simple fact is if the same judges, if you have the same judges on the panel from your interview then judging you on stage, if you bomb an interview, it's the inverse of the halo effect, right? The halo effect is when you see someone, I think it's in dating circles, like when you see someone who's really pretty or attractive, you automatically think they're more intelligent, they're more creative, they're funnier. Pageant interview has that same effect. If you do really well in interview, they tend to view your on-stage components more positively. Subconsciously, I don't think they think of it like this, but subconsciously, they'll give you better marks. They want you to do better because they've heard that you sound good. Whereas if you bomb an interview, even if you're doing the same on-stage presence, you're just as gifted. People go, well, they're not people. Their brain kind of goes, yeah, but you heard this person speak, and she sounds like she has no idea what she's talking about. No, we can't have her. And so they subconsciously mark you down. And that's why interview is so important. I'm not saying that it's going to be, 80% of your mark. And most pageant systems, it's not. It can be anywhere between 25 and maybe 50% on the higher side, but it has a halo effect. It does affect the rest of your pageant. And I know a lot of you, all of you, you actually want to win because winning is more fun than losing. And so I want to help you win by really helping you knock interview out of the park. So go to pageantmock.com. Help me create the most amazing training possible. We're going to give it away for free. Shake up the interview industry, the pageant industry as a whole. And if this has no other effect other than forcing other pageant coaches to up their game, then I'm all for that, because I'm sick of the gatekeeping. I'm sick of the paywalling. This information is out there. You should have it, and we're going to get it to you. You just need to help me out. What's the information exactly that you need? I think I got a pretty good start on it, given all the mock interviews and other interviews I've been doing behind the scenes, but I really want to narrow it down. So pageantmock.com, it'll take you 2 minutes to fill that out. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to get off here and find what my cat's doing because he ran out and I'm worried he's tearing the house down. But thank you so much. Pageantmock.com last time, and I will speak to you very soon.